guys, what's up? I am Nikhil from dopemotions.com and welcome to this brand new After Effects tutorial. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to create a really nice and minimalistic looking logo reveal in After Effects, which is absolutely simple and easy to create. So without any further ado, let's get straight into After Effects and get started. Alright, so here we are in After Effects. So let's start by creating a new composition. Let's rename this comp to main comp. 1920 by 1080, 30 fps and 10 seconds should be good, and hit OK. So the first thing that I'm gonna be creating is this lines that animates out just like that, which is very simple. You just need to turn on the title action safe. I don't know which button it is, just kidding. Anyway, so let's select the pen tool and let's add a stroke of maybe 5 pixels. We don't need any fill, so I'm going to set this to none. And from the center, I'm going to hold shift and create a straight line just like that. Maybe I'll make it 7 pixels. So there we have a straight line. Let's turn off the title action safe for now. Oh. Okay, there we go. And then what I'm going to do is, let's make this white actually first of all, and then turn off the title action safe. Oh, I've created 2 shapes I guess, so let's delete this. There we have our first stroke. Then let's go ahead and add a trim part to this. So let's go add and trim parts, and now we can animate the stroke just like so. So let's set this to 0, create a keyframe, go few, maybe like 23 seconds or 20 seconds, and set this to 100. Let's zoom in a little bit, and maybe let's set this to 1 second. Okay, let's go to somewhere around there, 20 frames, create a keyframe on the start property, go to 1 second and set this to somewhere around there. Maybe something like 30 or something. So now we have something like that, and that is what we are going for, as you can see. So let's select all the keyframes, and maybe I'll just tweak it a bit. Let's select all the keyframes and hit F9 to ease those keyframes. Let's go into the graph editor. And select this point and drag the handle to the left just like so. So now we should have something like that. See, looking very nice. Let's call this line underscore 01. And also I'm going to align this and make sure it is in the center. Let's go back actually and put the anchor point down at the bottom and make sure it is in the center. So as you can see, it is not in the center, so let's use the arrow keys and move it to the center just like that. And also I'm going to move the anchor point. You can manually move the anchor point as well, so you can just hold, put it right over here just like that. And now what I'm going to do is select this, hit Ctrl D and create 4 copies. Let's select them all, hit R, and let's rotate this one to 45 degrees, I guess 45 or 90 degrees, sorry. Oh, I'm doing it wrong. I'll delete this. And what we can do is actually go and add a repeater. And let's create 4 copies. Then go into the transform repeater properties and set the position to 0 and rotate this by 360, divide by 4, and there we have it, as you can see. Now it's not looking perfect into the center right over here, so we can move the anchor point and try to fix this. So just a touch, there we go. And there we have our lines animation. Now it's not looking the way I wanted it to look. So what I can do is select this actually and rotate this by 45 degrees. Let's see. So that is what I was going for. The strokes are pretty big here. So what I can do is select the line and let's set this to 0 again. And what I can do is select the pen tool and maybe we'll drag it a bit more to the top, just like that. And now let's rotate this at 45 degrees. So yep, this is looking much better. Maybe I need to stretch the stroke a bit more, just to somewhere around there. Hit U, go right over here, and maybe I'll just set this to 25, or let's set this to 50 actually. Yep, 50 looks much better. So now we have this really nice stroke animation. Let's see our reference. Yeah, that is what I am going for. So now at 15 frames we have this kind of a square, something like that, which is kind of a square. Let's actually go into the animation and let's see the lines. So the animation is something like that, as you can see. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's go right over here at 20 frames maybe and select the rectangle tool. We don't need any stroke for now, so let's set this to 0. We need to fill, so I'm going to set this to white and create a square holding Control and Shift at the same time and dragging the point. And now let's actually go into the rectangle path properties and let's go for the size that we want. So something like 300 looks good. And now what I'm going to do is I just need the square for 1 frame, so I'm going to hold Alt and close square bracket, go 2 frames forward, hit Control Shift D. And then for this one, the second layer, we don't need any fill, so I'm going to set this to none. We need the stroke, so I'm going to increase this to maybe 20. 20 looks good, or maybe 24. Let's go with actually 25. And I'm going to animate the size, so hit U 2 times so we can see the size. Create a keyframe, go forward in time somewhere around there maybe, and let's increase the size just like so. So it was really simple animation. Let's select keyframes, hit F9, go into the graph editor and tweak this a little bit just like so. Now we have something like that, as you can see, kind of a pop-up effect that 2 frames gives us. You can see looks pretty good. So this was the animation. See, now let's create this kind of a stroked up squares. So there we have it, looking very nice. All right, now what I'm going to do is let's create a stroke. So select the pen tool and let's set the stroke to around 50 pixels. And from the center, I'm going to create a stroke holding Shift just like that. Maybe I'll align this in the center. Oh, it's actually in the center, and increase this to maybe 60. I think 60 looks better. Yep. Or maybe let's set this to something like 90. This is looking much better. And now what I can do is let's animate this. So let's go right over here and hit U 2 times so we can see the stroke width size and create a keyframe. So let's set this to 0 and create a keyframe. Go right over here and set this to 90. Hit F9 to easy ease those keyframes, go into the graph editor, select the point and hold and drag it to the left, just like we did before. So now we have something like that. Actually, I'm going to do the opposite. So let's go into the graph editor and drag it to the right this time. Now I think I'll just keep it at easy ease, or maybe create a really nice peak in the center. So we have something like that. Okay. Then what I'm going to do is select this and hit Ctrl D to duplicate it, hit R and rotate it by 90 degrees. Now we have something like that. And that is what I am going for. I think the square is not in the center. No, it is in the center. Oh yeah, it was not in the center. No, yep. Now it is in the center. Same for this one. Okay, so there we have it. Now let's select the strokes and hit Ctrl Shift C to pre-compose it. Let's call this line matte. You can of course call it whatever that you want. So I'm going to call it line matte, and for the shape layer I'm going to change the track matte to alpha matte, I think. Oh, alpha inverted, and there we go. I have this really nice animation. Yep, that is what I'm going for. When it comes right over here, and maybe for the shape, these lines, I'm gonna make them a bit closer, just like that. So right over here, maybe at somewhere around there, I'm gonna create a flicker. So hit T and create a keyframe on the opacity. Let's hold Control and Alt and click on the keyframe to create a hold keyframe. Go one frame forward in time, and maybe I'll set this to 0. Go one frame forward in time, let's set this to 100. Go one frame forward in time by hitting page down and set this to 0. So we have a little bit flicker, and then it closes up just like that. So there we have that animation, and then it rotates just like so. The lines, so let's rotate the lines. Select the line, hit R to bring down the rotation tool, create a keyframe, go a few frames forward, maybe 20 frames. Let's see. So it goes, yep, 20 frames, and let's rotate this to 90 degrees. And let's hit U so we can see all the keyframes, and right over here create a keyframe on the start just like that. Go at the 1 second and 20 frame mark and set this to 100. So now we have something like that. So let's select the keyframes, hit F9, go into the graph editor, and I'm going to try to create a peak just like so. So now we have this really nice animation, but I think it's a bit too fast. So I'll maybe stretch this to 25 frames. Yep, this looks much better. So now what I'm going to do is, let's go 25 frames and select the rectangle tool again. Let's set the stroke to around 10 and create a square holding Control and Shift at the same time to something like this big. And let's go right over here actually somewhere, and let's select the size to around 400 pixels. Rotate this by 45 degrees, and I'm going to add a little bit of flicker on this, so somewhere around there. I'll hit T, create a keyframe, and just like we did before, hold Control and Alt and create a whole keyframe. Go one frame forward in time, let's set this to 0. One frame forward by hitting page down, let's set this to 100. one frame forward, and let's set this to 0. So we have something like that. Let's hold alt and close square bracket, and now we have something like that. Maybe I'll drag this a bit forward in time to 15 frames maybe. I think it's a bit too fast, so let's see. Maybe I'll drag it to 20 frames. Okay, so somewhere there in between. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is let's create a new composition, and let's set the width to around 700 and height to 700 pixels. This is going to be the square animation, so let's rename this to square. And let's select the rectangle tool. We don't need any strokes, so I'm going to set this to 0. We need the fill. Let's create a square holding shift just like that. And also I'm going to make sure to align it to one corner, and then I'm going to scale this up. So hit S, and maybe I'll scale this. Let's actually set this to 100, and let's scale the square. Yes, and make sure the anchor point is right over here in this corner. Now let's scale this to maybe 101. I think very minimal. Yep, that fits in perfectly. And now what I'm going to do is add a small scaling animation. So let's hit S, create a keyframe, go back in time. Let's set this to 0. Select the keyframes, hit F9, go into the graph editor, and this time I'm going to create a peak again, just like so. Now we have this really nice animation, but now I want the anchor point to be into the center. Oh, so now we have something like that. Oh, also let's align this in the position that we want, just like that. So now we have the simple animation. So select, hit Control D, and let's align it to the right. Control D, align it to the bottom. Control D, and align it to the left. So now we have something like that. See, we have kind of a line in between, so we need to fix that. So I think I need to delete this, and maybe I'll scale it a bit more to 102. I think that would be much better. So now let's hit Control D, align it again. Let's see. Yep, now it's looking perfect. Control D, align it to the bottom. Control D, align it to the left. So now we have this simple animation, as you can see. And right over here, I'm going to create one more duplicate by hitting Control D, and let's change it to a different color so we can see it more properly, and align it into the center. We don't need any fill for this, so let's set the fill to none. We just need the stroke. The stroke is going to be kind of a black color, and for the stroke size I'll go with something like 10, or maybe I'll keep it a different color. No, I think the black color looks better, so I'll just keep it 20. I think something like that. Let's hit U so we can see the keyframes go right over here, and I'm going to scale this up really big, so something like that, and maybe I'll go with 15 or something. Let's increase the scale. Something like this. Let's hit R and rotate this by 45 degrees. Oh no, actually let's keep it just like that, and let's displace this by something like 15 frames or something. Maybe a bit like 10 frames. Yep, something like that, maybe a little bit. And then let's go right over here as it hits the edges. Let's crop the shape, so hold Alt and close square bracket. Have it. Let's see if we are going with the animation correctly. So it hits and become white. So let's go right over here and add a fill to this. make this black. Go one frame forward and make, or actually go one frame backward, create a keyframe on the color, go one frame forward, and let's make this white. So now we have something like that. So it hits and becomes white, something like that. And for the stroke, I think it's a bit too much big, so I'll keep it at 10 and hit U so we can see the scale properties and scale it a bit more, just a touch. There we go. So now let's go into the main comp and drag that comp that we just created, that is the square one. Let's drag it. And right over here, just like that, rotate it by 45 degrees. And now we should have this really nice like an animation. Also, I'm gonna scale this down, so maybe around 75 or something. Yep, that looks much better. There we go. Three seconds. So it hits up, and then at 3 seconds I'm gonna animate this in. So let's create a keyframe on the scale property, go to around right over here, and let's set this to 0. Let's select these two keyframes and go into the graph editor, and the curve is gonna be something like this, just like so. Very nice, maybe a bit more. Yep, something like that. Let's go into the main comment, let's see. Yep, that is what I am going for. And right over here, actually where it hits, I'm gonna hit Ctrl D, duplicate it, and hold, select the second one and hold Alt and close square bracket and displace this a bit. So we have two copies just like that, just to make it more interesting. Yep, there we go. And while it goes in, I'm gonna add some lines. As you can see here, we have some lines going in. Alright, so let's select the pen tool, and just like we created the lines at the start, I'm gonna do the same technique, using the same technique. Let's create a line just like that. Maybe make it 5 pixels. Also align it into the center just like that. And then let's add a trim path. And let's animate the line just like so. Hide the guide layer, so I can just set this right over here. Create a keyframe, go a few frames forward. Let's set this to 0. And let's actually go right over here, create a keyframe on the end property, frames forward, and let's set this to 0. Now we can drag this a bit just like that. So we should have something like that, maybe a bit more faster. So let's bring this closer and displace this a bit more. Select the keyframes and hit F9 again, and let's go into the graph editor and drag the points to the right just like so. So right over here, I'm now start. So just right over here, I'm now make them go. Now we should have something like that. Yep, that is what I'm going for. Pretty nice. Let's hold Alt and close square bracket to crop this up. And again, let's add a trim part to this. Oh, the repeater to this, not the trim path. And let's create 4 copies. And let's go into the transform repeater, set the position to 0 and rotate this by 360, divide by 4. And there you go. Again, I think the center point is not aligned properly, so let's go and tweak the anchor point a little bit. And maybe align this to the center. I think it's not aligning into the center, so maybe I'll tweak this a little bit, just like so. So now we have this really nice animation, as you can see. Now as it goes in, our logo should pop up. So let's create a comp for the logo, and yes, let's keep it 700. All this logo, actually let's make this 300. Hit OK. I think 300 is a bit too small, so hit Control K and make it 500. And for the logo, I'll create a basic, just kind of an initial. Just something like that. I think it looks pretty good though. Make it big. Align it in the center. So let's say this is my logo. Let's go into the main comp. And I'm gonna add the logo comp into the main comp, just like that. We scale it down a bit, just like that. Maybe increase the size. Okay, so let's go at 5 seconds and hit S to bring up the scale properties. Go back in time and let's set this to 0. So we have this really simple animation. Let's select the keyframes, hit F9, and just like we always do, drag it. So now we have something like, actually let's drag just like so. Just a touch. So there we go. We have our nice looking logo. I think the logo is a bit too slow, so I'll just move the keyframes, and there we go. Displace a bit. Yep, this is looking much better. And with the logo, I want to add a little bit accent. So what we can do is select the line, the first layer of the line that we previously had, that is this one, and duplicate this by hitting Control D, hit U. And what I need to do is, let's delete this 4 keyframes. We don't need to use them. Let's put it below the logo layer. Let's bring this back. So now we have something like that. So let's also actually bring and tweak this keyframes like so. And I'm gonna go right over here and set this to 100. So now we have something like that, but it's a bit too big for our logo. So let's select this. Actually, let's go right over here. Let's select this, select the pen tool, and maybe I'll hit U 2 times and select the path just so we can tweak it. And I'm gonna let's hit actually R. Let's set this to 0 and let's select the point, hit U, select the path, select this path. No, that is not what I'm going for. So I'm not really sure why I'm not yep, now we get it. That is what I'm going for. See, looks pretty cool. And there we go. So let's hit N and hit Control A, U, so we can close all the layers. And let's see our complete animation. So you can see it is looking very nice, really minimal style, but looks kind of complex at the same time. So yep, I think it's a pretty cool style to, have fun, play around with. Once you get the technique of creating it, you can, I think it's kind of looking like a jump, so we can tweak this and fix this a bit. So what I can do is actually select the color keyframes and drag them a bit, maybe frames forward. Yep, that looks much better. Yep. And for the final touch, I'm gonna add a background, so hit Control Y, rename this to BG for background. Let's add a background pretty quick. There we go. And you can also add some long shadows if you want to. I already have a tutorial on it, so you can check it out. I'll provide the link down in the description below. But for now, I'm gonna hit Control Shift C to pre-compose it. Let's call this animation. And I'm gonna add a drop shadow. Maybe distance it a bit. Really minimal. I don't want it really heavy, kind of drop shadow. Really minimal touch. 5 pixels. So we have a really nice look, as you can see. Pretty nice. So that is a wrap for today, guys. I hope this video was helpful, and if it was, make sure to subscribe, comment and like, and I will see you guys in my next video. Till then, take care. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and don't forget to stay raw, stay creative.